Good morning, guys. Benjamin Franklin said, anyone willing to give up their freedom in order to attain safety deserves neither. Today, I am honored to have a real American hero, Dale Comstock, who's went into the most unsafe places in the world, the scariest situations in the world, to protect our freedoms as Americans. Uh, Dale is the author of the book American Badass, the true story of a modern day Spartan. And I highly recommend you get this book. Every man out there needs to read this book. This is incredible. If you like stories, this guy's got the best stories, really exciting. Uh, when Trump ran for president in 2016, I was hoping he picked Lieutenant Colonel Alan West as his VP. I thought that would have been a great choice. Another American hero. And I was impressed that in this book, he was the first guy to write something. It's a long paragraph. I'm just going to read the last two sentences, but this kind of sums it up. Dale Comstock represents the legacy and lineage of service to America, from his dad who served in Vietnam to his son who now serves. American Badass is a story of something rare, a modern day Spartan. And that's from Alan West. He was a congressman from Florida down here, did a great job. Also, Dale was a tier 1 operator, and I'm going to let him get into that a little bit, what that means. And he has this site that's really interesting. It's called dalecomscott.com, tier 1 performance coaching. I'm going to put the link in the comments or somewhere down there where you'll be able to click on it. But today, warrior men and men, manly men, masculine men, the kind of men you see in the Bible. You don't see wimpy men in the Bible. Manly, masculine men are rare. And I think Dale's going to help coach a lot of young men to grow into warriors that we need in America. With everything going on, we really need men to stand up and be men. And I think the women will be thankful. I could tell in my comments when I talked about Dale, the women was like, no, we love real men. So Dale, if you want to just share with us yourself how you became this modern day warrior, this modern day Spartan, and what's on your mind. I do have some questions, and I just want to warn my audience real quick. People say about me, if you ask Rob the time, he'll build you a clock. If you ask Dale how to throw a hand grenade, he's going to build you a bomb. So if we're interrupting each other, don't think we're being rude to one another. Me and Dale are used to that because when you talk a lot, sometimes people gotta say, hey, calm down, wait a minute, I gotta ask you something. So I'm real anxious, and this guy's on hyperdrive every time I see him, so I know he's anxious as well. So Dale, how do you become a Spartan?
Well, all right, so I'm gonna give you a little kind of a little lead up to this thing, how a little background story, I guess. So my father was in the Army for 20 years. I grew up in a military culture since I was a baby. Grew up most of my life in Germany. My mother's German. My father married her, obviously, when he was there. And so when he finally retired, he actually retired in at Fort Huachuca, Arizona. And then we moved to Fremont, California. He had a job up there with an electronics company when he retired. And all I remember is when we moved up there, I felt like a fish out of water. I was completely out of my element because I grew up in this culture regimentation, military mindset, fathers pass this on to their children, so we had a different way of thinking, and the military was our world. And so when I got in of all places, Fremont, California, in the Bay Area of San Francisco, so it was a stark contrast to what I was used to. And I was very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. It was really strange. At the age of 16, I became an introvert. I had a hard time making friends with, the other kids in school. And, I just became a loner. And so the one thing that was always on my mind is, I wanted to go back to the way things were, the life that I was used to. So by the time I was 17, I had already enlisted in the Army in the delayed entry program. So when I retired out of high school, I went straight in. So I already knew a year out what I wanted to do. I still remember when I signed up. My dad didn't know this. I saw an advertisement in a TV guide, and I flipped the page, and there was one leaflet in there, and it had an Army Ranger coming out of the jungle. He had camouflage on, rappel rope. He had a car 15, and he's just looking badass. And I'm like, that is it. That's what I want to do. So serendipitously, I got a call from the recruiter, and he wanted to talk to me. I said, yeah, I'm on the way. So I go down there, and I remember when I sat in front of his desk, he starts pulling out all these pamphlets and stuff about electronics and things like that, And at that time, they didn't have computers. And he's going through all this, and I just kind of looked at it, and I was like, and he goes, "What are your thoughts?" And I'm like, "Well," I said, "What do you got in the way of Army Rangers?" And he looked at me with a big smile. His eyes got all big. He just wiped the desk clean, and he pulls out a little pamphlet. That's it. That's what I want to do. So that's how it got started. And I went in, and I remember when I told my dad finally what I had done, and he was very disappointed because nobody on either side of my family had a college education. In fact, my dad had 11th grade education. My mom had a 9th grade education, and it was my dad's intent for me to be the first one to go to college. That was really his mission in life. Reality was I sucked in school. I was a terrible student, not because I was dumb, but because I had changed high schools 4 times in 4 years, and I moved all over, and I usually moved in the middle of the school year, so it was very difficult to assimilate. And when I'm in this weird culture, it made it even harder. So I was doing good if I was making C's, but I was probably an average D student, and and so I knew I was kind of demoralized. I didn't feel like I'd be a good student going to college, or I wasn't ready for it. So my yearning was to go in the military. So that's what I did. And so I did 20 years in the Army. I was a Green Beret. I had an A team, and I was a Delta Force operator for 10 years. I was a team leader. I was acting troop sergeant major. I was also acting troop commander for a while. And then I went through the special force qualification course to be Green Beret while I was in the unit. And then after, in 1996, I left and I went to 3rd Group and took a team over there.
Sir? So I think I know what you're saying, but a lot of my listeners aren't familiar with the terms you're using. So when you say the unit, you're talking about Delta Force.
Delta Force.
Already a Delta Force operator.
That's right.
Which for my listeners, that's like the all-star team. They recruit from Green Beret, Navy SEALs, Marines, right? And a lot of these guys don't even make it, the top of the top. So you're already at the top of top. So I'm curious why you would go to Green Beret training. Is that just additional training that you didn't get?
Well, because when I went to the unit, I only had 4 years in the Army, and so I was at this crossroad at my 4-year mark. I was 22 years old. I was married to my first wife, one of many, and I had a little baby girl, and so I was, like I said, I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. I was an infantryman in a long range scout unit, and I was not feeling challenged. And I thought, man, I don't know if I want to continue doing this, cleaning a weapon every day, sitting under a tree, digging foxholes, and so I entertained the idea of getting out, going back to California. And I called my mom one day. I said, "Hey, Mom, think about getting out. Would you consider letting me and my wife and my daughter live with you for a few months so I get on my feet?" And I remember to this day, her answer was no, not no, but hell no. And so, and I was like, all right, well, Mom just made the decision for me. And it just so happened I got basically a letter from the unit. And it's not just unique. They basically put it out to everybody in the military that qualified, met their prerequisites to apply to be a Delta Force operator, right? So so I said, well, hell, if I'm going to stay in, I'm going to go for the gusto, right? From zero to hero, man. And so that's what was my mission at that point. It's like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go all the way. Make a long story short, I got selected. And here's how it works. They have 2 selection courses a year, 2. They canvass all the military records. They look for the most qualified guys meet minimum requirements, and which are pretty stringent. And then you actually apply. You go through this application process that includes a background investigation, background check, records check, psychological evaluations, physical fitness test. If you pass all that, then you actually get a letter, go, congratulations, you are now eligible to try out to be a Delta Force operator, right? So now I go through the selection process, which is very physical. It's physical and mental. Now, what separates that process from, Navy SEALs, BUDS, all these other courses is this. Imagine this, as a SEAL, you go through as a group, everybody's rolling around the sand together, picking up logs, right? Splashing each other with water. And so I'm being a little facetious here. I got a lot of SEAL friends, but I always dig on them because, well, anyways, it's fun. And so, but so the Delta Force selection is an individual effort, right? So you go through the course by yourself. Okay, every day it's
Wow.
you're all alone, and they put pressure. The pressure you're under is the pressure you put on yourself. They tell you what they want you to do, but they don't tell you what the standard is of performance, right? And
Tell you
so,
times, don't tell you times or nothing.
no, nothing's revealed.
Wow.
Basically, they end the sentence with "do the best you can," and you're like, "Oh, sorry, but how do the best you can?" But do the best you can? You know, it's like, and they have a straight face, right? And so they don't discourage you; they don't encourage you. They put no pressure on you, and so off you go, and suddenly your psychology, your mind, it starts to wear on you. It's like, am I going fast enough? Am I going hard enough? Am I meeting the minimum standard? Do I need to do more? And so what you end up doing is you end up pushing yourself to the maximum every day psychologically, which then physiologically breaks you down. And when you break down physiologically, that's where they really see if you got the metal, because now you really, there was a point in the course towards the end, I was literally in a farm field in mud up to my knees, pouring rain, and I was just beaten, physically beaten, even though it was probably the best shape of my life. I remember standing out in the field crying, a grown boy, and I say boy, I was only 20, well, I just started turning 23, crying because I was just completely demoralized. And the only thing that got me out of that muddy farm field and got me going up the mountain and continuing mission was I realized that nobody's coming to get me. If I don't get out of here, I might just stay out here for the rest of my life in this muddy field and become a scarecrow, right?
That's
So,
great motivation.
I got myself out. Make a long story short, I made it. In my particular class, on the average, there's like 100 candidates, right? I think mine had 110. And of the 110 that started, 6 of us completed the course and 3 of us got selected. And this
Wow.
only happens twice a year,
And these are
right?
the
So the
best of
numbers
the
are
best.
very small.
And this is the
Yeah.
best. Guys, he's talking about Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Green Berets, the Air Force Special Forces guys. 3 people out of 110
Yeah.
get selected. So
Yeah.
we're
And
talking.
I was the youngest. I was the youngest ever at the time.
I was gonna say Alan West said he thinks you were the youngest. Was he correct?
Yeah, I was at that time. I was the youngest. I just
Wow,
turned 23, and
that's
so, anyways, people think, well, when the question arises, Delta Force, do they pick they pick the best man? And the answer is no. Actually, they don't pick the best man. They pick the right man. And there's a difference, right? So they're looking for certain qualities that we don't even know what those qualities are. It's never revealed. We had 3 psychologists there, and they could actually, I believe, they could actually tell which guy was going to make it just from the initial application process. So they already had this down to a science.
to this day. You don't know what they were looking for.
No, they don't tell you that. It's one of the best kept secrets out there, because if they put that out there, people will game it, right? And then you don't get the best guy. You know what I mean? So, anyways, so that was kind of my career. I retired in 2001, pre 9/11, just before 9/11. Started my own security company pre 9/11, which was serendipitous for me, and put me in a good place, because when 9/11 happened, the door swung wide open. I made a lot of money. I sold my company in 2004 to G4S Whack and Huck. Concurrently, I was recruited by.
Excuse me. You owned Whack and Hut, or you sold your company Whack and Hut?
Yes.
I'm familiar. That was a big security company in New Jersey.
It still is. G4S. It's G4S is the largest security company in the world.
Okay.
And so they gobbled my company up because I was competition. So they had the money to just buy me out and get rid of me, right? Otherwise, I was in their way, making life hard for them. And I was very successful at it. So, and then at the same time, I got recruited by O.G.A. Okay, we talked a little bit about that. And so I spent 9.5 years with them, doing pretty much what I did in the military, but more with less guys, less Americans, if you will.
So I just want to tell for my viewers, me and Dale had spoke a little bit, and there's certain things he can't talk about, but just from my own research, and O.G.A. is a other government agency. A lot of people that I research claim, they say he was a C.I.A. paramilitary officer, which is pretty crazy, and not too many people do that. So just want people to understand, this guy is not just all muscle. In fact, I have a little thing I do called Blue Collar and a Scholar, where I interview PhDs and we talk about politics, religion, culture. And I could have had him on that show because believe it or not, Dale said he wasn't a good student, not because he wasn't smart, but because he, traveled a lot. He actually is a PhD. We're talking to Dr. Dale Comstock. Actually, I meant to say that in the intro, but I was so excited to get to him. So Dr. Dale Comstock also has like I said, he's a PhD in integrative medicine. I say that correctly?
Yeah, pretty much. Integrative medicine.
Integrative.
Naturopathy.
I practiced it and I still got it wrong. But I have another channel, Blue Collar Catholic, on Rumble, where there's a lot. I talk about health that if I talked about it on this channel, they would take me down in a heartbeat. So maybe we can get you on there down the line. I want to get your thoughts on what's going on with everything, with the mandate,
absolutely,
all the crap they're pushing on us.
Yeah, sadly, you're right. If we get on there and we talk about things that I have a friend who's has another podcast, and he actually had the doctor on there that came up with mRNA.
Dr.
And
Malone,
this doctor came on there and actually said, listen, he goes, the best thing you can do for your immune system, right? And he went through, vitamins and supplements and things like that. They literally banned this guy's podcast from YouTube for that.
Yeah, Patrick Coffin, who's a Catholic, he's just a real Catholic dude, talks about Catholic issues. All he said was that he thinks people should have the right to choose, and they took him down. And this guy had a huge following. They just took him down without any warning. And me, when after the election, I was talking about the election, they didn't take me down, I guess because I was small, so they just gave me a warning. But without warning, they demonetized me. I was making a couple $100 for a blue collar guy. That was a nice little pocket change. And they demonetized me for probably like 4 months. Up for some reason, a couple months ago, I noticed I was monetized again. But it's amazing what they're doing to our freedom. And what's a guy like you who fought your whole life for freedom think of this? That we have a government taking away our freedom. We got these liberals running the tech companies, censoring us. What do you think of that?
Yeah. Well, obviously it's not American. It's not even moral. It's what's scary is how many people out there don't even realize what's going on, right? And they're not paying attention. They're paying more attention to their video games, and MTV and texting, but they're not actually paying attention to what's going on around it. And they all seem to think that somebody else will take care of whatever issues are going on out there, right? And so what they don't realize is, no, if we collectively don't deal with this, we're all going to be screwed in the long run. So as a veteran, I'm going to tell you this, and this I've never thought I would say these words before, but so. With my background, I've mentored a lot of young men. In fact, in my performance coaching, I get a lot of young guys, between 19 and 26 that are either in the military already or civilians that want to go into military special forces, special operations. And they come to me for this mentorship program to train them. I've had, young, teenagers come down to my home in Florida from different parts of the state for the weekend just to hang out and, kind of get, learn and, touch the magic, if you will. And so, I was always encouraging guys to join the military and girls because it's the best show in town. Be honest with you, now I tell people don't do it. I tell young people don't join the military. My son's a Green Beret. He's a Ranger, and he's been in for about 10 years now. He's married. He's got a couple kids, and he was down here about maybe 8 weeks ago, and I looked at him. I said, you know what? I said, get out. I said, get out of the military. I told him, I said, you know why? I said, first of all, it's not the same military. I said, think about this. When you go to war, which you will, all right, you're no longer fighting for, America. You're no longer fighting for American ideals. You're fighting for socialism. The same crap that my father fought for 20 years, in Vietnam and around the world that I have fought against. And I put socialism, communism, Marxism all in the same basket.
Right? Yeah, it's all the same, baby.
And so I said, that's what you're fighting for now. And I said, how does that make you feel? And you're going to go out there and you could potentially get very seriously hurt or get killed. And nobody's going to remember your name. Nobody cares. You're a pawn. I learned that lesson many times now. I was in Mogadishu, Somalia, Black Hawk Down. And I remember when, we were out looking for Michael Durant and the rest of the guys. In fact, one of the Congressional Medal of Honors, Gary Gordon, was on my team. During the training course, I remember we had a formation one morning, and at the time it was Colonel Garrison, who's a JSOC commander, but he's now General Garrison. he stood in front of us in a big formation. He goes, "Okay, gentlemen," and he started out with these words. He goes, "Gentlemen," he goes, "politics is nothing more." No, he said, "Sorry." He said, "War is nothing more than an extension of politics." And he goes, "Unfortunately," he goes, "the politicians have decided that we're going to go home." And we're all looking at each other like, "What do you mean? We're not even done yet. We got bodies out there. We still haven't caught the bad guy, Indeed. We haven't finished the mission." And didn't matter, right? We're going home. And I realized at that point, that was Bill Clinton at the time. He's supposed to be the
I
commander in
remember.
chief. And what's expected of a soldier is that you continue your mission, right? You don't quit. You continue your mission. And here we got a bloody nose, right? Even though the bad guys got their ass handed to them, we got a bloody nose. And for political reasons, because of all the, couch potatoes, going, "Oh my God, it's horrible, bring them back." We had to walk away. And I could tell you that's a hard pill to swallow for all of us. It's like, but we expect our commander to continue the mission and finish the fight, just like he expects us to do. It's not like it's an option for us. Like, "Oh, I don't think we want to do this one today, sir." No, it's you go do it because that's what's expected. So that happened, and then this thing with Afghanistan just happened, right? And so what I realized for the second time after Afghanistan is, all right, our government and particularly the Democrats don't give two iotas about Americans and American soldiers. They're nothing but pawns. Now I'll tell you this: I enjoyed my time in the military. The camaraderie, the friendships, the experience, the culture. It's nothing like it, right? And so there is the upside to it. However, the downside is you could have it all taken away from you because of somebody else's political agenda, and everything taken from you. Your life, you lose your family, you lose everything because of that. And I told my son, I said, "Get your training. Actually, you've got your training. He's a Green Beret, he's a Ranger." I said, you've got an opportunity to do a lot of things. He went to Iraq. I said, "Now walk away and don't look back. It's not worth it." And I tell that to every guy out there. My friends are veterans, combat veterans. They tell their kids the same thing: not joining. You're not joining this military. It's so changed. I mean, all we got to do is look at what happened in Afghanistan. We look at General Miley. What a sellout. Okay, I'd punch that guy right in the face if I had the opportunity. What a sellout. This whole thing, is just turned into a social experiment. It's no longer about war fighting. It's all about political correctness. And I saw the writing on the wall literally when I retired 2001. It's been that long in the making. It didn't just happen overnight. And what I mean by that is in 2001, so at the time, General Shinseki was the Secretary of Defense, came to Fort Bragg. He came to a ceremony of all Green Berets, and he was just so impressed with these Green Berets. He's like, "Oh my God," and he decided every soldier in the military should have a beret.
Yeah,
right?
I remember that. I was like,
Right.
"What's up with that?"
So he took the black beret from the Rangers and he gave every person a black beret in the military so they could feel good about themselves. And to the chagrin of the Rangers, they had to go to a brown beret. It was an insult because that beret it stood for something, just like the Green Beret, right?
Yeah,
You had to earn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so suddenly it was like, yeah, we're taking it, we're gonna give it to everybody else so they can feel good. And I can go on with what started happening. For example, soldiers out of basic training didn't have to pass the physical fitness test. They if they felt stressed, they literally pulled out a card called a stress card, and they would hold it up in front of the drill sergeant.
I heard that. I didn't know. I thought that was an urban legend. That's true.
No, it's true, right?
That
It's
is
true.
Oh my goodness.
I go on all day with this stuff, right? And that's when I realized we're done. I'm done. I want out, right? So I retired at 20 and said I don't want no part of this no more. And it's only gotten worse.
What Trump said is right. Everything that goes woke goes to crap.
Yeah. And so
they ruin everything.
Here we are, right? It's when I look at the military now and this whole the other day they christened a Navy ship. I believe it was a transvestite or transsexual or homosexual. He was one of those three guys. All right, pretty much all the same as far as I'm concerned. And and he's up there with a champagne bottle and he christens the ship.
Are you serious?
And I think the ship was named after another homosexual.
Oh,
right. So
this is the first I'm hearing this. This is.
Oh yeah, check the news feed. That happened probably about a week ago. It was on the news, right? And so this is where we are today, right? And while we're sitting here, arguing about vaccine cards and which bathroom the transsexuals that whatever should use. The Chinese have built the biggest navy in the world. They're building more nuclear weapons. And the funny thing is, comparatively speaking, they have about 1/3 of the arsenal that we have, which is over 1,000 missiles, right? And while they don't have as many missiles as I do, well, how many nuclear missiles do you think they need to freaking be a threat?
Yeah.
One,
Yeah.
right? Like somehow it matters that they only have 1,000, we got like over
Yeah.
3,000, right?
Yeah.
So what we're looking at right now is, we're looking at the death of America. We are in the death throes, and I believe there's only, we have two chances, and the first chance is the next year, next election, Senate, the House, that we flip those seats in
I'm
favor
feeling
of
good
us.
about
At
it. You
least,
feeling good? I'm feeling good. The people are waking up. Am I being
well, I
optimistic?
am, but I'm not, man, because I don't understand the liberal mindset. Because here's the reality of it, right? And even Hitler said it. If you tell a lie and long enough, people will eventually believe it. And that's usually about 90 days from a psychological perspective. So you say it enough times, 90 days, people will buy into it, even though the truth is right there in their face. It's this cognitive dissonance. They just can't accept it. And that's the reality. Once you're brainwashed, almost like the Stockholm syndrome, it's like you're converted, and no amount of truth is going to change your mind. And I feel like that's where we are. I'm not convinced we're going to be in a better place, because we've got to change the minds of a lot of people that are just not going to change their minds, right? And because they're, and I don't care if I insult people when I say this, but
I got
the Roman Empire collapsed because of what they call the dumb masses, right? The Senate goes, hey, we're going to do all these things, but what we're going to do is we're going to give the dumb masses bread and circus. We're going to keep them entertained. And while they're watching, the entertainment, gladiators and stuff, and eating bread, we're going to do all this stuff on the backside. And so that's where we are today. The dumb masses, which in my opinion is about 95% of the population. Okay. Even your most educated people are some of the biggest idiots out there. Just because you're educated doesn't mean you have effective intelligence. Okay. And we can go down the list, man. I mean, I could use all kinds of examples like AOC. There you go. That's a great example of someone who's got an education that's dumb as a rock, right? But there's a lot of people out there. And so, the dumb masses are basically have been, they're not going to do their own due diligence, right? They're not going to do their critical thinking. They want the news to do it for them. They think the news is going to tell them the truth.
Yeah, some people actually still believe the news is reporting news.
Yeah, the news are, they're the purveyors of propaganda for the left, right? So, you can't. I don't believe them. I don't even trust Fox News anymore after the last election.
Oh yeah, I made a video about Fox News after the last election. How like in The Godfather, if you ever watch The Godfather,
yeah,
they always pick the closest person to you to give you that fatal shot when they want to kill somebody big.
That's right.
I felt like that was a Godfather move. We'll let Fox pull the trigger.
Yeah, and that's pretty much, I was done with them that night. I don't watch it anymore. I don't watch any news. What I do is I'll actually scan some news feeds, kind of get an idea what's going on, and then I do my own due diligence, and I use my own critical thinking skills. Yeah. And I try to figure out what's really at play here, because a lot of this is propaganda. For example, this vaccine requirement from Biden for companies with over 100 employees. The first question every American should ask them: how is 100 the magic number? Why is it not 50? Why is it not 10? Why is it not everybody? Right?
Check your antibodies. See if you have antibodies.
Yeah. Why is it 100 people? Is like 100 people are more dangerous than 99 people?
Yeah.
Right. So,
like and so rule they came up with, and they finally, the 6 foot rule. Remember the 6 foot rule?
Yeah.
And then we find Fauci just pulled out of his butt that he said they just wanted to make us feel better.
Yeah. And so all this stuff is going on, and I don't think this vaccine card or this vaccine mandate is not going to hold water. It's already getting blowback, from the Supreme Court and different states. Yes, but it was designed to be, I believe, just to be a distraction, right? To basically embolden and galvanize this leftist movement. In fact, just before we talked, I saw here on my news feed where there's one of their editors or illustrators or writers for Washington Post said, at what point do we start prosecuting the non-vax? Right? When do we start prosecuting them? Those that are not vaccinated, right? Like we're criminals now. Yeah. And so this is where we're at now. People that decide they don't want to put a drug in their body, are now being, we become the enemy, we become the criminals, we become the outcasts, we're becoming marginalized. We're the ones that are going to go to these, these death camps or whatever,
Mhm.
and this is all the work of, you know, really it's the work of the people in power because they already understand. This is why politicians get away with what they get because they understand the human condition. They understand how to pull strings and push buttons, and they understand that most people are sheep. They will just follow the herd right over the abyss, right? And so, and any of us that deviate from that herd, we're outliers, and we got to round these guys up, and we got to physically throw them over, And so, it's a war. It's a war in America. We're already at war. In fact, we're in two wars. Um, One, we're already at war with China. Just because we haven't launched missiles or led bullets yet doesn't mean we're not at war. We've been at
Seems
war
like
for a long time.
seems like Trump was the only public figure that understood that. I
Yeah,
don't know why nobody
yeah.
else understands that.
No, right, because nobody's paying attention because everybody's just worried about their own little rice
And they
bowl,
and they're
right?
get
And eating
yeah,
on
and they're
that.
getting money. I'm sure the checkbook's out for, all the politicians on the right and the left.
Yeah,
Trump was the only one not taking any checks from China.
yeah. So we're in a war, and it'll probably go kinetic one day. And then second thing, we're in a civil war here in the United States. We are in a war. Basically, we are so divided now, more so than ever. And it all started with Obama because they played the race game.
Yep.
They knew that would work, right? Because they
From
know
the
that.
get-go, that officer acted stupidly when he was following protocol, actually helping to protect his African American friend, and they
Yeah,
they turned that right around, saying this was racist because he was
yeah,
following protocol. Yeah,
yeah.
it's amazing. My
So
son-in-law is a cop. You wouldn't believe some of the ridiculous things he hears.
yeah, but here we are, and it's psychological warfare, and the left has mastered that because they know it works. In fact, it's king even on the battlefield. Um, you know, most of the fights are won based on psychological warfare. And
Interesting.
and changing the enemy's way of thinking, right? And the best way to change our ways of thinking is appeal to people's sensibilities and concerns, human rights, and equality and all this crap. I got news for anybody out there that's listening. We are not all equal. Okay. That's the reality of it. Nobody wants to say that, but we're not all equal. Okay. Just think about it like this. I was actually thinking about this quite a bit yesterday about leadership. Um, I'm actually doing a leadership seminar next week, or asked to give a speech, and I was thinking about that, and I was like, you know, very few people are actually leaders. Can you turn a person into a leader? And I would say yes, only to a degree. I said, leadership is, I believe, it's genetically based. It's in you're either born with it or you're not. Because if we were all born leaders, we were all born alphas. Uh, we'd have more wars and more strife than ever, right? All the alpha
No,
dogs
you're
going
right.
after each other.
You're
So
right.
there's a hierarchy, whatever it is by design that we have our alphas, we have our bravos, we have our omegas, right? And the same thing with human beings. Any social creatures and social constructs, you have to have an hierarchy to have order and make things work. And and people want, again, particularly on the left, they seem to think that no, we're all equal. Well, we're not. On so many levels, we're not. Our IQs are different. Physically, we're different. Our belief systems are different. Our cultures are different. There's so many things that make us different that we're not equal. And and what's telling is, for example, when you have people, they want to, they want labels to distinguish themselves. Like I'm an African American, right? Or I'm a Polish American. Um, you know, but you don't want me to treat you any different, but you want me to call you something different. Either
Wow.
you're
Good point.
either you're American or you're not, right? And if you're going to tell me I'm an African American and this is my culture, and you're appropriating this and you're appropriating that, um, then what you're telling me is you're different, right? So you're gonna get mad at me if I treat you because you're different, right? And so, either we're the same or we're not. And the reality is we're not the same. Now, that doesn't mean because we're not the same, we discriminate or we don't treat each other fairly. And there is a difference, right? One thing is treating people with fairness, and the other one is trying to have the same outcome for everybody, right? Even if there's no equity, if we're not equal. And we're in this place now, this weird politically correct place, even with these pronouns and stuff, people are losing their shit over, you call me a he and I'm a it, or I'm a toaster, right? Whatever, right? And so and
Like a
so what they
letter.
want me to do is lie to myself, right? And call you a toaster when I know you're a man, right? Or at least a male, maybe not a man, but you're male, right? And or female, right? And so I refuse to do that.
Amen.
Don't ask me to lie to myself to accommodate you and your feelings. You
Amen.
know, we're in
Amen.
this weird place, man.
It's a
And so
very weird
every day
place.
I'm sitting here, like most of us, I hope, trying to
I
figure
think
this
most
thing
of
out
us.
and going, okay, don't buy into the propaganda, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to pull me into this camp so I believe what everybody else is. Maintain my poise, maintain my way of thinking, maintain my belief system, and don't let them take that from me.
Amen.
And that's where we are today. And it's a battle of the willpower, a battle of the wills. It's a battle of philosophy. It's a battle of so many battles, really. And I just, fortunately for me, I'm older. I'm 58, and I'm a little bit more grounded in my belief system. I've been able to figure it all out for the most part of my life. I'm still learning, and it's not doesn't mean I'm not open minded to other ideas, but I pretty much, um, I do know the difference between right and wrong, what's moral, what's immoral, what's ethical, what's unethical, and I don't need some wacko telling me that he's neither male or female, but he's actually a dog or something. It's like
Yeah.
no,
When 80%, a recent poll, 80% of Democrats said you cannot tell a human's gender at birth. So they're denying just basic science.
right,
They call the Republican Party the anti-science party. These guys are denying basic science. And what we're saying, we're not saying, you know, we don't want people to have the same equal opportunities. We're just saying we don't want the government to force the same results.
that's right,
The whole what made America was great was competition. Let us all find what we're good at and do our best, and let the best man win. And you'll have the best schools, you'll have the best doctors, you'll have the best of everything, because competition breeds greatness. This is why Delta Force is the greatest unit, because they don't say, okay, everybody's equal, everybody's going to pass, everybody gets a trophy. They're like,
right.
no, we're going to get the best of the best. We're going to mess with their head, we're going to mess with their body, and we're going to see who wins. And
You mentioned earlier, you mentioned Alan West. So let me talk about Alan West real
sure.
quick. Alan West, as some of you all in here probably know, he's running for governor for Texas, right? I guess he's going to run against Abbott.
Yeah.
I know Alan West personally. Here's how I met him. It's kind of an interesting story. So I was in Los Angeles years ago, around 2012, I think. And I was at a hotel downtown LA. And myself and Joe Tedeye, who's my business partner, Joe Tedeye's Dual Survival Discovery Channel. He's the guy who was on there for about 5 years. And we were actually doing a TV show for Discovery Channel that we actually were the producers for, called Lone Operator. And one morning, I was going down to the breakfast lounge to eat my breakfast, and there was Alan West sitting in the lobby waiting for his limo to pick him up and take him to his studio, because he was recording there. And so when I walked by, I stopped and looked at him, and I said, "Good morning, sir." I said, "I really look forward to you running for president of the United States." And he got up and he laughed, and he's like, "Oh my God, man!" He goes, "You didn't have to go there, did you?" And I said, "Of course I did." And I said, "Listen, I got your back too, man. If you need a bodyguard, security, you need a sec def, whatever you need, man. I'm in your camp, man." And and so I got to know him, and then in our discussion, I told him I was a veteran, told him my dad was a veteran, told my son's in the military, and he had me on his show the next day, and just to talk about the veteran experience and my dad, myself, and my son, and he really put that out. It was kind of cool. And then about 6 months later, he had moved his show to Washington D.C., and he calls me. He goes, "Hey man, I'd like to have you on my show again in D.C. Would you be in on that?" I said, "Sure. What's it about?" He goes, "Well, at that time, so the Army wanted to now put women in combat arms, right? They wanted women as Green Berets and SEALs and Rangers, blah, 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 blah." He goes, "I'd really like for you to come up," because he knew my position on that. He goes, "I'd like for you to come up and talk about it as a subject matter expert on this, if you will." And so I went up there. I said, "Oh yeah, I'm ready for this, man. Lock and cock, raise the range flag. We're getting it on, man." So I went up there, and he asked me a question. He goes, "How does it feel, a guy with your background, and now they're telling you that they want women, and be Green Berets and things like that." So I let him, I let it out there. I put it out there. I said, "Look, man, I was an infantryman. I was a long range scout. I was a Green Beret. I was a Delta Force operator. I was a mercenary. at that time I wasn't really working mercenary work, but since then I've done a lot of real mercenary work, not contract work, but mercenary work. I've been to the field. I've been to the field with women. Okay. And I can tell you it's a train wreck. Okay. Men will be men, women will be women. Okay.
Amen.
And I always hear the women go, well, you need to learn to leave your, excuse my language, your dick in your pants. And I'm like, well, you need to keep your legs closed, right? It's a two-way street, right? Stop blaming it on, because actually what I saw happening, um, actually I saw it happen in Desert Storm. So I went over there, kind of regressing a little bit, but I went over there as part of the Secret Service detail supporting George H. Bush when he went to do a visit, right, for Thanksgiving. And we went to these forward operating bases way out in the desert. Everybody ready, getting ready for the war. And turns out there were women out there that were literally officers prostituting themselves for money in the field because because they could, right?
Yeah.
And they were making money. Um, so moving forward, and I've seen it myself. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff happen because of women in the field. I've seen guys lose their careers over it. And so, but what's more important for me was performance in the field, and this argument that, well, women have seen combat, they're getting in firefights, blah blah blah, in Afghanistan, Iraq, and I'm like, no, 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 that's a big difference, right? It's one thing to drive in a vehicle, or get in a firefight. It's another thing to go to the jungles of Guatemala for a month, fighting in the jungles, carrying 80 to 100 pounds on your back, machine guns, and you don't have, you don't change your clothes. You get one uniform for every 2 or 3 guys in case somebody rips a pair of pants. And I went through this whole process of field conditions. For example, as a small team out in the field, when you huddle up to sleep, all right, you don't spread all out in the jungle. You literally sleep back to back with your rucksack, sitting up, facing outward. And if you got to go use the toilet, okay, doesn't matter if it's number 1 or number 2, you don't go meander off in the jungles to go do that. You do that literally inside the perimeter into a plastic bag, and you tie it all up and you put it in your rucksack and you carry it out because you don't leave sign behind, right? So there's all these things you do. Can you imagine you got a woman out there dropping her drawers, okay, and taking a dump right there in front of everybody to watch, okay? Not a cool sight. And snuggling up, right? So I've slept, we call butt to nut, right? Trying to stay warm in the field because we don't bring warm gear to, I don't care how cold or wet it is, you got one uniform. And basically, you're freezing. What do you got? You got body heat. You snuggle up to each other, try to keep warm, not because you're gay, but you're just trying to survive. I would have loved to have a couple of chicks out there in between me, a couple of sandwiches, but but these are the realities that the guy behind the computer and on his couch making these decisions. Oh, everybody should be be allowed to do this stuff, but they don't understand the problems that are associated with that, because men will be men, and we will fight and we will compete over women. I don't care how raunchy she is after 3 or 4 weeks. We're going to go primal. It doesn't matter. And, because we're human beings, we're, at the end of the day, man, we're very animalistic as well. But, so I was on the show, and he named one particular general that was in the organization I was in, who was an advocate for that. And he said the days of, Johnny Rambo are gone. Today's Green Berets are more technical and they use electronics. And I go, this is from a general. And by the way, I'm on this topic. So this is the mindset of officers in the military. Okay. First of all, let's get one thing straight right now. Officers are not leaders. Okay. That's bullshit. All right. The only leaders in the military are non-commissioned officers, NCOs, your sergeants majors, your corporals. Those are your leaders, right? I look at officers as nothing more than executive managers. They do very little field time, very little. They manage is what they do. Okay. And so basically here I got this general executive manager, trying to tell, guys like me that, I wasn't relevant anymore. The days of Rambo are gone. I'm like, wait a minute, all the technology and all the things that Green Berets enjoy today was because of guys like me developing this capability for the future. Right. So that's a whole nother story. Moving forward a little bit more, or upward, if you will, I look at the presidency of the United States. Everybody falsely identifies the president of the United States, or actually all these monkeys, these senators and congressmen, as leaders. Okay, they are not leaders. Let's get that straight out there, America. They're executive managers at best. They're not leaders. There's a huge difference. They ain't lead. Look, these people couldn't lead blind people into darkness. All right, they can't. They're managers, and that's what they're doing. They're managing, and they're basically manipulating is what they're doing. And so, you know, these are, I'm pointing these things out because, you know, we've been inculcated in this mindset forever that, you know, certain, like General Custer was a leader, right? Probably General Custer was, because he was actually out there getting it on with his soldier, but we have departed from that for a long time ago. This guy, General Miley, okay, I can tell you right now, the guy's a turd. All right. Here's what he did. He's wearing a Green Beret tab.
I wanted to ask you that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I've been
He only
curious about
spent, at best, he spent 2 years on a special forces team, okay, as a captain. And I tell you what happens to the captains on a special forces team. And I have a lot of captain friends and special forces officers, my friends, and I don't mean no disrespect to them. I know who they are. They know who they are. They know what they, you know, their roles were. Basically, a captain comes to a special forces team, like my team when I had an O.G.A. Captain shows up. My name's Captain Houghton, blah, 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 blah. You'll be your new team commander. I'm like, yeah, got roger that, sir. See that desk in the corner? Yes, sir. Yes, Sergeant. That's your desk. Go sit over there for 2 years. Don't touch nothing. Don't say nothing. Yeah, don't make no noise. And you'll be good to go in 2 years. You get to be the executive officer of the company, you know, and you get to work your way up the food chain, right? As a politician. I said, you know, you can come out and play with us, but at the end of the day, this guy's in charge of the team. That's how it works, right? And so that's what Miley is. So don't, you know, he's got all this crap on his chest.
I wondered about that.
Yeah, look, man, those are token awards. You know, they got to give him something for him to be a general. You don't want a general out there with one little tab on there, right? Little ribbon. It's politics too. It's all bullshit. Now I would tell him that in his face. A lot of those guys' face. So, anyways, I'm kind of getting a little angry right now because this really gets to my heart, man. And I'm a moral, for the most part, I'm a moral person. I'm not perfect. And sometimes I see things differently than other people. And you know, we all have you know, our you know, our moral borders, you know, fluctuate depending on who we are and what we're looking at in our ethics. But at the end of the day, one thing I do believe is that doing the right thing, even when nobody's looking. And I have a philosophy, you know, do what you want to do in life as long as you're not hurting other people. You know, that's important. Don't hurt other people. And so, but when you're hurting other people, and it's not just physically, but, you know, in every way, financially, you know, like, for example, telling me that I have to call you, you know, a toaster because you don't identify as a man or woman. Okay. That's kind of harmful to me because you're asking me to not believe, to change my belief system to accommodate your feelings. Right. And that's what I mean by that. You know, I'm all about living. If you want to walk around and call yourself a toaster, more power to you. Okay. I'm not going to call you a toaster. You call yourself, I'm not going to call you a toaster. Right. So, I have a live and let live policy, but I also don't believe in hurting other people. And, which is kind of funny coming from me, right? Because I made a living doing that. But, let's get that straight. I'm not a murderer. All right. But I do bad things to bad people. Then there's a difference.
There's a big difference. Hey, I had one of my viewers ask, you know, because I did a promo video and I had mentioned that you worked for, you know, some top secret government agency. And he said, well, ask him what he thinks. He said, I've lost all faith in our intelligence agency. I mean, we know, now we know for sure, we all knew it, but now it's proven Obama weaponized the security agencies, the CIA, to spy on Trump. Hillary Clinton used the agencies to hurt him when he was going. We know that they're corrupt. So, you know, I'm sure in every agency there's good men and there's bad men, but is there any hope for our intelligence agency at this point?
Man, it's same thing, right? So the communists have gotten to them as well. I'm very disappointed, right, in the FBI, all the government. I don't trust them. Here's the funny part. Here's a guy that spent most of his life interacting with these agencies, training with these agencies, supporting these agencies, you know, friends with people in these agencies, going, hey man, we're on the same team. You know, it's the same fight. Maybe the teams, our jerseys are a different color, but we're really on the same fight. Yeah, and now I'm like, I don't trust them anymore. You tell me the FBI, I don't care who you are. I have to assume you've been indoctrinated into the leftist bullshit. All right, starting from the top down. So no, I don't trust the FBI. I don't trust the C.I.A. I don't trust, you know, I don't trust any government agency anymore. I certainly don't trust my government. Not at all. Zero. They are the enemy. I'm sorry, they are the enemy. And
at this point, that's what it looks like. Well, I hadn't made a video, and I want to get your opinion on this if you think this is a good idea. So during the election, every local police department endorsed Trump. Every union endorsed Trump. This has never been. Usually in the Democratic cities, the police departments will endorse the Democrat. Republican cities. But this was, my son-in-law was a cop, and I'm telling you, there's no cop that votes Democrat anymore. Never. They see they're the enemy. Now, the intelligence agencies, they're all in with the Democrats. And I thought about this for a second. And what's the difference? The difference is the local cop doesn't need to go to college. To get in the FBI, you have to go to college and get indoctrinated. And the top guys came from the most socialist schools, Harvard, Yale. So my solution, and I tried to get this to Trump, maybe you can get it through Alan West to somebody once we take it back, get rid of that college requirement for the FBI. Make it 4 years of law enforcement or 4 years of military service as a requirement, but then, have the school just as hard. They still got to pass and get through the training. But that would weed out all these leftists that are getting indoctrinated, and they're coming into the agency, in my view, not because they love America, but because they want to change America and make us into a socialist nation. You think that's a point?
No, I think that's a valid point. You look at most colleges, they're very hard left, they're really indoctrination factories, and so my own personal experience. Fortunately, the schools I went to. So for all your readers or listeners out there, I went to Liberty University.
So great. Jerry Falwell.
So I was kind of indoctrinated, inculcated into the the religious, philosophy and things like that. By the way, I was born a Catholic. Not a good Catholic, but I am a Roman Catholic, and I roam around a lot too. So 97 countries to be exact. Amen. And so I've kind of gone to conservative schools, Webster University, et cetera. But my daughter ended up going to UNC Charlotte, and I raised my daughter in a very conservative home. And now she's much older now; she's 36. But I thought it was just kind of amazing. She would come home on the weekends and start challenging me on very on right-wing ideas in her mind. And then I realized very quickly that they are literally indoctrinating my daughter into a different kind of mindset. And it's a great story, right? So I'll make this one really short. Sure. My daughter comes home one day. She's kind of like cruising around the living room, and I could tell, okay, something's going to happen. And then she stops. She goes, "Dad, can I ask you a question?" I go, "Here we go." Rack the machine gun. All right, let's go. What do you want? And she's like, "What do you think about this idea of Bush building a wall to keep the illegals out, the Mexicans out?" And I said, "Build a wall, build it higher, and put machine guns on top of it, right?" And she goes, "Why? They're only trying to make a better living and trying to get, blah 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 blah, right? The whatever they always say, right?" And so I went on to explain to her that, look, these people, my mother still has her green card. She's German, okay? But my wife is here with me. She's going through her immigration process legally, right? She's not sneaking in the country, things like that. I said, there's a process to come to America, and so what they're doing, they're criminals. I'm just going to say it, right? They're not undocumented migrants or immigrants. They're criminals. Okay, try that shit in another country. I live in Indonesia. I live in Bali, okay, and in Florida. You try that crap in Indonesia, see what happens to you. Yeah, it ain't gonna be pretty, man. And anywhere around the world for that matter. But she gave me a story, and I told her, the problem with that and why, infrastructure, taxes, how we burden the costs and blah 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 blah. And really, what we're doing is, we have a welfare system that people live off of because they don't have to go to work. And so the jobs that are not being filled are being filled by these illegal aliens. Had we not had these illegal aliens and we took a welfare system, these people would have to go fill these jobs and go to work, right? Like everybody else. And so about 2 weeks later, I was driving down in Florida one night, Saturday night, about 11:30. I get a call. It's my daughter, and she's screaming and hollering on the phone. I go, "What happened?" She goes, "I just got in a car accident." And what happened was it was a T intersection. She had the green light. She was going through it. A car pulled out in front of her, 2 Mexicans in it. Couldn't even speak English. Didn't even have driver's license. Were illegal. She T-boned them, flipped the car. One guy ended up in the hospital. She ended up hurt, totaled her car, brand new car, right? Cops show up. They try to ask the other guy what happened. He refused to speak. Even in Spanish, he wouldn't speak. And so here we go. So this process. And I told my daughter, I said, "Well, don't worry about it." I said, they don't have a driver's license. They didn't give a statement, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be damned. About 2 months later, my insurance company calls me because she's on my insurance policy. And I'll tell you who it was right now. It was State Farm, right? And I had like 10 policies with them. And they go, "Well, we're going to go ahead and settle with the Mexicans because we don't want to go to court because we're going to lose." I go, "What does that mean?" They go, "Well, Here's what happened. They go, so out of the blue, right? There's an auto shop down the road. A Mexican guy that owns an auto shop walks out, looks left, looks right, sees a car accident, suddenly becomes a witness for his two friends in the car that just left his business, right? So now it's three witnesses against my daughter,
Wow.
and they didn't want to litigate that. So I go, so are you telling me you're going to raise my insurance premiums because of this? And they go, yes.
Oh,
I turn right around and call my daughter. I go, all right, here's what happened. Blah blah blah. She lost her mind. She goes, that's so unfair, Dad. That's so unfair. I go, remember that conversation we had 2 weeks ago? She goes, yeah. I go, here's some tough love for you. You get to go out now and buy your own insurance because I'm not taking the beating on my insurance premium. I said, so you get your own insurance and you pay for it. Since you support these people, have at it. So her mindset has changed quite a bit, especially now that she has
theory and reality is never.
Yeah.
Doesn't
and here's another thing I wanted to point out real quick because I just mentioned it about welfare. So in Indonesia, I've lived there for 8 years. My wife's Indonesian. We live in Bali. And here's what's amazing about Indonesia. There is no welfare program. If you don't have a job, you got two choices: find a job or make a job. Actually, your third choice is go fucking hungry, right? And over there, everybody has a job. They either find a job or they make a job. They make a job either parking cars for a couple of cents. Cents is a lot for them over there. 5 cents is like 50 cents here. Or they go out and they sell street food. They do all kinds of menial work, whatever. They do something, but guess what? Everybody over there is thriving. They're not just surviving.
And that's a biblical principle. St. Paul got a letter saying, hey, these guys in the church aren't helping out. We're all supposed to help each other. We're a church, we're looking out, but we got guys that are lazy. And St. Paul said, if a man is not willing to work, that man does not eat. I mean, that's a
right.
principle. You work or you don't eat. My grandfather came from Italy, and he used to tell my uncle, when you turn 18, you get a mirror or you get a job. And my uncle said, why a mirror? He goes, because you ain't got a job, you can watch yourself starve to death.
That's a fact. So, and so you don't see that in Indonesia because of that, right? And so if we got rid of all this welfare crap, and actually, you know what? I understand why we have welfare or unemployment. Let's put it that way. And I'm okay with that to a point where I believe that if you get on the welfare train, you ride it until you get a job. And then when you get a job, you pay some part of that money back, right? For the next guy, right? That's how it should work.
That's how it should work. Hey, listen, Dale, I love everything you have to say. I just want to say this. We need guys like you to go to Washington. I don't know if this thought ever crossed your mind, but we need guys like you, no nonsense, tell it like it is and understand what's going on. And that we know already served our country, and you didn't do it for the money. You didn't do it for the kickbacks. You did it for the love of country. So if you ever think about running, you come on and announce it on the show, and we'll spread the word. And I live in Florida. You live in Florida. We can get this thing going. But before we leave, I do got to ask you a question. You had a powerful quote in your book, and you said you weren't afraid to die because you were prepared to die. And I had just lost a granddaughter. I told you, we spoke on the phone a couple of days ago, and that really stuck to me, and it means a lot. And I just want to hear your thoughts of what that means to you and how your Catholic faith. I know you're not perfect. I'm not perfect either. Nobody's perfect. That's why we needed a savior, because if we could do it, then Jesus died for nothing. But I want you to explain to people how you were prepared, like practical. You give practical advice, but also spiritually. I mean, you had to think about the next life. I'm sure.
So I believe in the idea that you have to resolve your own death, right? So before you can face death, you have to resolve it. And you better resolve your death before you have to face it, because if you haven't resolved your death, you could balk, you could hesitate in a life or death situation that could cost your life. And I got many examples of that where guys were not prepared. They did not resolve their death. And when I say resolve your death, that means you've already made the decision. Okay, if I die, I'm going to heaven. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to go see God. I have all my insurances in place. My family's being taken care of. I got no, loose strings out there. If I check out today, nobody gets hurt. Everybody's going to go on. They might cry a little bit. In my case, they might laugh and clap. Yeah, he's gone. But that's what I mean by that. So I've seen guys like, in a life and death situation, the final seconds, man, it's like you got one choice. It's fight or die. And they try to negotiate with the aggressor. Go, wait, stop, wait. They try to reach out and say, hold on for a second, let's talk about this, because they're not ready, right? When you're ready, as I am, there's no hesitation. You come to me and you kill me, I'm gonna kill you first. Oh, I'm gonna give you, man, I'm gonna make you work for it. I don't have to sit there and go, hold on, let me think about this. Wait, did my insurance? No, man, I know what I got to do, and I'm good with that. All right. I tell people every day that if I die today, I'm gonna die with a smile on my face. I don't care what it is. All right. I'm gonna die with a smile on my face. Why? One, I've done everything I've wanted to do. Everything, right? I've lived my dreams. Okay. Two, I know what's going to happen to me when I'm gone. Okay. And it's personal for me as it is for everybody else. But I've already decided what my fate is going to be when I'm gone. Three, I'm comfortable with the fact that I know that my family will take care of. They're in good hands. I also feel good that I raised my kids and actually trained my wife and others to take care of themselves without me. In fact, they've learned how to do that because I've been gone most of my life. Okay. I've been divorced many times. I'm embarrassed to say how many times I've been divorced. It's been a lot. People are like, Comstock, why you keep getting married? And my only answer is because I'm not a quitter, right? So that's all I can come up with, because I was like, yeah, why do I keep doing it? Well, I'm one of those guys that wants like what everybody else wants, right? I want a happy marriage and stuff like that. But because I've been gone, I think everybody's prepared to live without me. Okay. I've also made sure that I have, provisions in place so that they are taken care of, and so that if I disappear, they're not going, oh my God, what are we going to do now? We're done. So collectively they can work together. When I say they, I'm talking about my entire family. All my kids from all my different wives. But it's a team effort, right? And just because the alpha checked out doesn't mean the alpha female or the alpha male, my son, can step up and take over. But most importantly, to your point, resolving your own death is key. And if you haven't done that in life, you better do that like right now. You better figure that out right now, because the last thing you want to do is hesitate in a life and death situation when you could save your life, but because you hesitated, you get killed.
Wow.
Okay. And so that has to be sorted out first. And I'm good with it. I've had to do that because I faced death so many times now. Somebody commented more than once, actually, man, you're like a cat with 9 lives. And I'm like, no, I'm like a litter of kittens, because I should have been gone a long time ago. But because I made decisions and I was decisive right away in my response and my way of thinking, I've pulled myself out of some tight scrapes. And that's a huge lesson in life. It doesn't just apply to soldiers. It applies to everybody, man. Resolve your own death right now. Don't be afraid to die. Okay. Live every day like it's your last. Enjoy it. But be prepared if that day should come where you have to face that threat, that you're prepared, right? And that's what it comes down to.
That's great advice. Thank you. And we're glad you're here. We're glad you have 9 lives or 20 lives or whatever. Men like you that kept us safe and free for these past 20, 30s, the whole history of our nation. So I'm going to encourage everybody to get the book, American Badass, The Making of a Modern Day Spartan by Dale Comstock, and go to Tier 1 Coaching. Is that what you call it? Dale Scott?
It's 2 websites, dalecomstock.com. That's an easy one. And then Tier 1 Performance Coaching. So it's Tier number 1 Performance Coaching, all one word. That's my daughter's my business partner along with Joe Tedeye. So we do performance coaching on that site. And then I have my own personal site where I also provide trainings and teachings and things like that, coaching as well. So those are my business websites.
All right. Like I said, I'm glad you're on our side, and I hope your career serving our country isn't over, but this time maybe in a suit and tie rather than in a helmet and carrying a gun. So
I'm anticipating that. I'm ready to make the change, man.
Right.
I could sit around and I could sit back like everybody else and watch the world go by and wonder what the hell happened, or I can go out there and be an influencer and make a difference, right? And so I'm considering that.
All right. Well, we got you back here at Blue Collar Catholic. Thanks again. We could sit here and talk all day, but my son, he's my technical guy, and I know he's got things to do. So we're going to have to do this again. Okay, brother?
Yes, sir. Anytime.
Right. God bless.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.